What if I told you that one of the most dangerous muscle cars ever built didn't scream for attention, didn't rely on cartoonish graphics, didn't need hood scoops the size of mailboxes, and didn't care if you noticed it at all? Because while other muscle cars were desperate to be seen, flexing their stripes, revving at stoplights, begging for validation, this one simply arrived, stood still and waited. Waited for you to make a mistake. In the golden age of American horsepower, loud usually meant fast, flashy usually meant powerful, and subtle meant weak. But not this car. This machine didn't shout, it didn't posture, it didn't threaten. It assumed. And that quiet confidence made it terrifying. In the mid-1960s, America wasn't just changing, it was accelerating at full throttle. The country was booming, interstates were stretching across the map like fresh drag strips. Suburban families were trading station wagons for something louder, heavier, faster. Cars stopped being transportation, they became statements. Stoplights turned into battlegrounds. Highways became proving grounds. Horsepower wasn't just a number anymore. It was pride, identity, masculinity, and reputation wrapped into one. Pontiac was loud and rebellious. Chevrolet was aggressive and blue-collar. Dodge was brutal and intimidating. Plymouth was unapologetically raw. Each brand screaming the same message in different accents. Look at me. But in Lansing, Michigan, something else was happening. Something quieter, something colder, something far more calculated. Oldsmobile, the division most Americans associated with conservative engineering, family comfort, and Sunday afternoon drives, was quietly building a monster. Not a street punk, a professional killer, and its name was the 442. This wasn't a car built for teenagers showing off at drive-ins. This wasn't a machine for loud personalities or ego-driven theatrics. This was the gentleman's muscle car, tailored, measured, refined, and absolutely ruthless. To understand why the Oldsmobile 442 became one of the most respected and feared performance cars of the muscle era, we have to rewind to 1964, because behind the scenes at General Motors, a quiet civil war was brewing. At the time, GM had strict corporate rules meant to keep its divisions from cannibalizing each other. One of the biggest rules was that no midsize car was allowed to have an engine larger than 330 cubic inches. The logic was simple: big engines belonged in big cars. Midsize cars were supposed to be sensible, civilized, controlled. It was supposed to keep things balanced. Then Pontiac shattered everything. John DeLorean and his renegade engineering team looked at the rulebook and ignored it completely. They dropped a massive 389 cubic inch V8 into the Pontiac Tempest, slapped a name on it, GTO, and accidentally ignited a revolution. The GTO didn't just sell well, it exploded. Sales doubled, street racing culture exploded, magazine covers followed, legends were born overnight. And suddenly, Oldsmobile had a problem, because while Pontiac was stealing headlines and rewriting history, Oldsmobile was being branded with something lethal in the performance world: boring. That label threatened the entire division. Oldsmobile engineers knew something the public didn't. They had always been innovators. They pioneered automatic transmissions, they built some of GM's most durable engines, they valued engineering discipline over marketing hype. So instead of copying Pontiac's formula, they did something smarter: they engineered a solution. A small group of performance-minded engineers led by John Beltz with Dale Smith and Bob Dorshemer quietly went to work on the F-85 and Cutlass platforms. Their goal wasn't bragging rights, it was superiority, balance, durability, control, confidence. They wanted a car that didn't just launch hard but finish strong. That philosophy gave birth to a name that would soon earn whispered respect on the street: 442. And no, it had nothing to do with engine size. At first, the numbers meant something far more intentional: 4-barrel carburetor, 4-speed manual transmission, dual exhaust. It was Oldsmobile's understated way of saying, we're not playing games anymore. Early 442s didn't dominate headlines, they didn't scream for attention, but they did something most muscle cars of the era struggled with: they worked. Heavy-duty suspension components, stronger rear differentials, improved cooling, better braking, tighter chassis tuning. While competitors boiled tires, twisted frames, and fought for traction, the 442 hooked and went. Word spread fast. By 1966, enthusiasts knew the truth, and Oldsmobile decided it was time to remove the gloves. That's when the W30 package was born, not advertised loudly, Not hyped publicly, developed almost entirely under the radar. The W30 wasn't an option package, it was a declaration of intent. Only 50 were built in its first year, 50. Each one assembled with care, each one designed for dominance, each one built for one purpose, winning. At its heart sat a 400 cubic inch V8 producing 350 horsepower, a serious figure for the time, but horsepower numbers didn't tell the full story, because what made the W30 special wasn't peak output, it was delivery. The torque curve, the gearing, the way power arrived instantly without drama. It didn't rev to impress, it crushed. And then came 1968, the moment everything changed. That was the year the 442 stopped being an option and became its own model. New platform, new proportions, new confidence. The second-generation GM A-body gave the 442 a shorter wheelbase and a far more aggressive stance, wider track, more rubber, improved weight distribution. The roofline flowed into a fastback profile that looked fast even when parked. Quad headlights stared forward with quiet menace. The grille was narrow, restrained, unmistakably Oldsmobile. This wasn't a Cutlass anymore. This was something else entirely. Every year refined the formula, but 1970 was the peak. That was the year GM finally lifted the displacement ban. No more limits, no more restrictions, no more pretending. And Oldsmobile responded the only way it knew how, with over-engineered excellence. They dropped the legendary 455 cubic inch V8 into the W30. And this wasn't some lazy big block, this was a precision weapon. Aluminum intake manifold, high-flow cylinder heads, aggressive camshaft profile, low-restriction air cleaner, massive 4-barrel carburetor. Official rating, 370 horsepower. Reality, closer to 400 horsepower and over 500 pound-feet of torque. 500. Torque so violent it didn't need RPM, it didn't scream, it surged. To feed that beast, Oldsmobile engineered one of the most iconic induction systems of the era, ram air. Cold, dense air pulled directly from outside the engine bay and rammed into the carburetor at speed. Later versions added functional fiberglass hood scoops that weren't cosmetic. They worked. Then came the detail only true enthusiasts notice, the red fender wells. Bright red plastic inner liners installed purely to save weight. Today those red liners are sacred. Collectors hunt for them. They are proof that you're looking at the real thing. Underneath, the drivetrain was just as serious, Muncie 4-speed manual, Hurst shifter, 3.91 rear gears, aluminum differential housing. Launch control before launch control existed. A well-tuned 1970 W30 could demolish the quarter-mile in 13.7 seconds at over 100 miles per hour. In a nearly 2-ton car, with full interior. That wasn't impressive, that was terrifying. But here's what made the Oldsmobile 442 W30 truly unique. It wasn't just fast, it was civilized. While Dodge and Plymouth stripped interiors and sacrificed comfort, Oldsmobile doubled down on refinement. Plush carpeting, thick sound insulation, high-quality vinyl, wood-grain dashboard, comfortable seating. This was the most upscale interior GM offered in a midsize performance car. You could destroy the drag strip on Saturday and drive to the office on Monday without breaking a sweat. That was the genius. The 442 wasn't built for kids, it was built for professionals, doctors, lawyers, engineers, executives. People who wanted respect during the week and domination on the weekend. Only around 3,100 W30's were built in 1970. Fewer than 9,000 total from 1966 to 1972. And then it ended. Emissions regulations, safety mandates, insurance crackdowns, the oil crisis. The muscle car era collapsed almost overnight. The mighty 455 was strangled, horsepower numbers fell. The 442 name survived, but only as a badge. The soul was gone. Today, the 1968 to 1972 Oldsmobile 442 W30 stands as one of the greatest achievements of the muscle car era. Not because it was the loudest, not because it was the flashiest, but because it was confident enough not to care. Proof that power doesn't need to shout, that refinement doesn't mean weakness, that sometimes the most dangerous machines are the ones that don't feel the need to prove anything. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most underrated legends of the horsepower wars, make sure you hit that like button, share your favorite muscle car in the comments, and subscribe, because the next story might be even faster.